Friends, again, at this time, we are going to begin services for Francis Bohm. I would ask again, if anyone has a noise-making device or cell phone, if you take a moment to turn it off or place it in the silent mode at this time. Officiating our services today is Rabbi Barry Schechter.
Mizmor David, Adonai, mi yagur b'olecha, mi yishkon behar kodshecha, holech tamim, u'foil tzedek, v'dover emet pilevavo. Lo ragal l'shono, lo asal riyehu ra, v'cherpa lo nasal krovo, nivze beinav nimas, v'etirei Adonai chabed, nishpal hara, v'lo yamir, kaspo, lo natam ben eshech, V'shochad al makil olakach, Hoseyele, lo yimot li'olam. God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others, or wrong them, or bring shame upon them, who give their word, and come what may do not detract, who do not exploit others, those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Dear friends, we're here today for a very, very sad and very difficult occasion. To say goodbye, which is just about the most difficult thing we can ever do, especially under these circumstances, but also to pay tribute. To pay tribute and to honor the memory of Frances Fran Bohm, the daughter of Martin and Regina, Friedel bat Moshe Verivka, who's gone to eternal rest much too early and much too suddenly, and leaves behind a family and friends and neighbors who really loved her very, very dearly. Her husband, her life's partner of 58 years, Michael, her children, Stacy and Julie and her Aaron, the grandchildren Evelyn, Riley, Dominic, Bryn and Jackson, her sister Adele and her Lawrence, and nieces Stephanie and her Lee and Jennifer, and great nephews and niece Zachary, Alyssa, and Johnny. I hope I remembered everyone. When we spoke, and I spoke to the family, and I've spoken to a few of you here, you told me what an incredibly and wonderfully close-knit family you are, really tied together. And how heartbreaking and how shocking this is to have lost her at this time. And you told me also about her growing up, how she was born actually in Germany in a place called Schwandorf, which was that a DP camp there, Adele? Was it a displaced persons camp? No, it was a.
I'm sorry.
They were in a concentration camp in Poland, and they left Poland.
Yeah, I understand.
After the
Yes. Yes, her parents had been in a concentration camp. Her parents, Martin and Regina, they'd actually met in a concentration camp. And they were now in Germany, in Schwandorf, and that's where Fran was born on April 1st, 1947. And in 1950, the family came to the United States. They ended up in Chicago. I think you already had family here. And Adele, you were actually born in this country later on. And you told me how you met. You were working at a place, you were working part-time at Halstead and Roosevelt, at the Vienna Sausage Company. Some of you remember this. And she has an aunt, Aunt Lola. And Aunt Lola took a liking to you and introduced you to her. And you got married when Fran was 18 and you were 20. You didn't waste any time. Which is what should happen when you meet the right person. So this Aunt Lola was your schatzhunter, your marriage broker, and I'm sure you're grateful to her as long as you live. Fran worked for different places. She worked for a medical furniture outlet, and then she worked as a legal secretary. And then for some time she was a secretary for a synagogue, for a temple for Beth Judea in Long Grove, where Stacy and Julie, you had your bat mitzvahs. And then she worked for one of the buildings of Winston Towers. She was the manager for a building, and she retired 15 years ago. One of the things you told me, and the good thing is, when I speak to a family and I speak to different people in the family, if they all tell me the same thing, I know something is right. Because I have had examples, you may not believe this, but it's true. But I've spoken to a family where one person says to me he had a wonderful sense of humor, and the other one says he never made a joke or laughed in his whole life. But I heard from everyone the same thing again and again and again. And it was something wonderful. It was something wonderful. It was that Fran was concerned with doing the best she could for others, for her family, for her husband, for her children, for her nieces, nephews, for her sister, for everyone. She put herself on the list last. That was the kind of person that she was. As you told me, when I asked you if she spoke other languages, because of course the environment in which she'd grown up, she spoke fluent Yiddish. She also spoke some Polish. In fact, there are relatives in Israel, and you told me they used to converse. They used to speak in Yiddish. In fact, you went to Israel. You must have met some of them there. You also traveled to Canada. She liked also going to Vegas, you told me, and cruises. And the Caribbean, was that for the gambling or the shows? Oh, the shopping. She liked to gamble as well. Well, the truth comes out, that's fine. If there were any justice in the world, there'd be a representative of the City Council of Las Vegas would be here now, because you did a lot for that place. I know that the children, you went to Stevenson High School, and she has so many wonderful, wonderful friends and neighbors. What's the name of the place? Northbrook Point, right? Northbrook Point, which looking around here, I think is completely empty today. Because I see so many of you from there. This lady here, she has arranged things wonderfully. You have a wonderful, wonderful group of people that you are friends with and you're very fortunate to live in that building. And I know that the family and the people in the building will be sure to look after the family and Michael. It's rare, I can tell you. I visit a lot of people. I visit people who live in condos, and they always tell me, I say, what's your worst experience? And they say, a condo meeting. And whereas here we have people who are friends. And that has a lot to do. That has a lot to do with Fran. You told me that early on, when you were growing up, you would have a Seder on Passover. You would have the meal. You'd switch off Adele. It would sometimes be at your place. It would sometimes be at Fran and Michael's place. And also early on, there'd be uncles and aunts. There might be as many as 20 people there. And I know that you would. She was a very, very good cook. She would make brisket. I'm not trying to get you hungry now, but I'm just going to tell you what she made. She made matzah brai. She made latkes. She made kugel. But Adele, you would bring the soup and the matzah balls for the Seder, and you'd also bring the sweet carrots, the tzimmers. I just want to put this all on the record, because the truth is that other people would offer to bring things, and she would say, no. Fran would say, no, I want to. We'll do it. I'll do it. Now, actually, Adele, after you told me after you married that Martin and Regina moved to Skokie, but when Martin passed away, Regina moved in with you. She actually lived with you. And that was really wonderful. You had several generations in a single home. But the other thing, the closeness that you talked about, the cousins, Stacy and Julie and Stephanie and Jennifer, you always together. Adele, you were with Fran every day. You'd be with her every day. You would go, the two of you, with your children and her children, with the cousins. You'd go to Woodfield Mall, you told me. I said, what did you do there? And you said, well, I imagine you did some shopping there, right? I would hope. And you'd walk around. You'd also have dinner, maybe on Friday night, at a place with to meet a strange name, John's Garage. Is that right? Yes, it's not for housing cars. It's for serving food. Now, you have other wonderful memories of every Sunday night when they were alive. You would have dinner with Regina and Martin at their home. So this family, the sisters, the cousins, the parents, the grandparents, it's a family like this. And some of it, of course, may have to do with the fact that, we are talking of children of survivors, of those who have survived something so horrible it can't be imagined. And we're living in pretty bad times now, as you know. And so you want to hug your family close, which is a good thing. What I said before about her looking after, being concerned with others, even when she was in the hospital, if you just think for yourself a minute, if something's hurting you, if you're in the hospital, what happens is that we naturally tend to turn in on ourselves. We're concerned with our bodies. We start thinking about our bodies in a different way. Is this working? Is that working? In the hospital, she was not concerned with herself. She was concerned with Michael. She wanted to know how Michael was doing. That was the principal concern. Because as you know, Michael has not been well. You just went to pick him up from rehab. But I want to tell you why I'm speaking to you, and I'm a rabbi, but essentially I'm a stranger. I've just met you. And I'm telling you things that you know. So how does that come about? Well, I want to tell you something that's very, very important. The world we are living in now is a very difficult and frightening place. It's a very difficult and frightening place. There are people, we don't even have to go to Israel. There are people that we read about, that we hear about, we see online, or we see on TV, or we read about in newspapers, who behave very, very badly. There are people, and this word is being used more and more and more now. It's very interesting. Sometimes if a word is used more frequently, it tells you about the kind of society we're living. And that word is narcissist. Narcissist. Someone who cares only about themselves. And we see more and more of this displayed in public, which is shameful. And when we hear about someone like Fran, who is the opposite of a narcissist, who cares about others, who cares about her husband and her children and her sister and everyone else in the family, and her nieces and her grandchildren whom she loved you so deeply. Those are the ones she cares about. As I said, there's a list. If you wrote down a list of all the people she cared about, she's the bottom of the list. And the narcissists that I'm talking about, it's not just that they're top of the list. They're the only ones on the list. And it is our duty, if we know of someone like Fran, it is our duty to speak about them again and again and again and again, to give ourselves hope, not just for the family, but for humanity. Because someone like Fran gives us hope. Someone like Fran, who can be this way, who can be a wonderful, decent, loving human being, someone who's children of survivors, that is so important. So when you speak about, and not just now in a moment of terrible grief, as I said before, this is, you're heartbroken, that's your phrase, shocked and heartbroken. I've spoken to people from the building, from the building, who told me that, they're keeping busy doing good things for you because otherwise they'll just cry. If you have someone like that, someone who brings such love into the world that when they leave it, that people who live in the same building, I'm not just talking about the family, live in the same building, are overcome with grief, then the love they have brought into the world must have been enormous to have this reaction. And so she should be an example to us, a model of how we should behave. And I can't emphasize this enough. It is so important. You were blessed to have her. I wish from the bottom of my heart that I could be meeting you under other circumstances and say to you how lucky you are now to have her. And may you have her for many more years. I wish it could be that way. Alas, it is not. I'm here to praise her and to comfort you. And you have one wonderful advantage, which is what I mentioned before, your family. I see the way you're sitting now. I see the way you are. You're like this. And you can help each other. You can each can help the other. And that is going to be your task now. It's not an easy one. But sometimes, when we help others, we help ourselves as well. When you cheer up someone else, or you lift them a little bit from the sadness, the grief they're feeling, you actually lift yourself up. I'm not just making this up. This is attested to. This is an empirical fact. It's difficult to believe, but it's true. So help each other. Be with each other. All of you, the friends, the family, the neighbors, all the people she loved, and all the people who loved her. The love that you felt from her, let some of it come out now as you support each other. As I said, you You were blessed to have her. Of her I say, Tehei nishmata tzurura bitzror hachayim. I'm sorry, I realize there's one other thing I failed to mention, which I learned later, because there's something that some of you look at in your home and it will remind you of her, because she did wonderful needlepoint. She made beautiful art with her needlepoint. You used to have it in your room, and Stacy, you have it in your room. You will look at it and you will remember her. And as time goes on, now you look at it and you'll think, oh my God, she's not here. But as time goes on, you will look at it in years to come, and it will lift you. So again I say, Tehei nishmata tzurura bitzror hachayim. May her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. That's what I say of her. And to her I say, Frances, Fran, daughter of Martin and Regina, Friedel bat Moshe v'Rivka, Lechi b'shalom, geh in Frieden, go in peace, hab belecht in Gan Eden, may your repose be in paradise. You will never be forgotten. You will never be forgotten. You will always be remembered in love by those who knew you and loved you, and those whom you knew and you loved. Amen. Mizmor David, Adonai ro Elohech sar, Benoteshe yare bitzeini, al mei menuchat yanaleini, Nafshi yeshovev, yanecheni b'magle tzedek, L'mahan shemo. Kama ki elech v'getzal mavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishanetecha iminachamuni. Taharok lefanei shulchan neget tzararai. Tishaneta v'Hashem en roshi kosirvaya. Aktov v'chesed yedefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti beveit Adonai li'orech yamim. That was the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew. If you open these little booklets, you will see it at the top of the left page, the 23rd Psalm. Would you read with me, please? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Could I ask you please to stand if you can? If it's difficult to stand, stay seated. And could I ask those of you who are wearing the ribbons, if you could come, well, let me go and walk over to where Michael is. So those with the ribbons, come with me please. And we're going to tear these ribbons and say, as a sign of mourning, and say a blessing. Stay here, please. We're going to say a blessing. We're going to say a blessing that we say on these occasions when we suffer a loss. If you know Baruch Atah, you know that, yes. So we're going to start with those words, and I will tell you the two words that are at the end, the two different words. So let's begin. Baruch Atah Elohim. Dayan ha'emes. Which means, blessed be the true judge. That's what we say when we suffer a loss. You go back to your seats, but if you can, please remain standing if you want to sit down. You go back to your seats. El male rachamim, shochein baramim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanefei ashina, b'malot kedoshim utorim, ki zohar rakia masihirim, et nishmat Friedel bat Moshe v'Rivka shalecha le'olama bavur she'atnachnu odrim nitzdaka b'yad hazkarat nishmata b'gan Eden tehei menuchata Lacheine barachamim yastireha besete kanafav leolamim vitzror vitzrorachaim et nishmata Adonai unachalata v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. Passionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Frances Fran Bohm, the daughter of Martin and Regina, who has entered eternity and in whose memory we offer charity. May her repose be in paradise. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence. And let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
You can be seated. Friends, this concludes this portion of the service. The interment will continue at Shalom Memorial Park in Arlington Heights. The family will be together and receiving calls of condolences on Saturday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and also Sunday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Bohm residence, which is 153 Point Drive, Unit 202 in Northbrook. That information, as well as condolence information, is available inside the folders that you received as you arrived today. For those of you who have joined us via the live stream, it's also available on our website. If you did not receive a folder as you arrived today, they will be made available as you depart. For those of you joining us in procession to the cemetery, we'll ask you to please keep a few safety measures in mind. Please make sure that you're following the car in front of you as closely as safety permits to avoid any gaps in the procession, particularly as we make our way through intersections. Please make sure that you have your bright headlights and your hazard lights on at all times. And please make sure to obtain an orange funeral safety sticker from our staff. They will be made available. You'll place that on the passenger side of your front windshield. We also recommend that you refrain from speaking or texting on your cellular phone. The following have been asked to act as pallbearers today: Jeremy Bloom, Martin Descent, Aaron Greenberg, Lee Stanley, Mark Epstein, and Bruce Levine. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please rise. I'll ask the pallbearers to come forward as we escort Mrs. Bohm from the chapel. Pallbearers, you're going to be following behind the lady to the right, please. And following right behind two by two.